the horse. There are many things we can do with the horse. We can feed the horse, cherish the horse, admire the horse, forfeit all of our carrots and other mortal possessions to the horse, and now, thanks to advancements in technology, we can even turn horse into human. Wait, what? If you've spent any substantial amount of time on the internet, you've probably heard the name Umamusume Pretty Derby floating around in the last few months or so since the game's global servers went live. Or you may have already heard about it through other means, such as the currently airing spin-off Umamusume Cinderella Grey or the 2024 film Umamusume Pretty Derby Beginning of a New Era. You may have even seen all 3 seasons of the anime that started airing in 2018. As for me personally, I first heard about the franchise through the anime, but never gave it a look until after the game's global release. However, for the sake of this video, and because it's the part of the franchise I'm the most familiar with, I'll be putting my focus on the game. Umamusume Pretty Derby is a multimedia franchise created by Cygames, which was initially announced in 2016 as a mobile game. That mobile game would eventually launch in Japan on February 24th, 2021, with a Windows release following a month later. The game has since launched versions in Korean, as well as traditional and simplified Chinese, but didn't get a global launch until June 26, 2025. Since the game's global release, Umamusume seems to have taken the internet by storm. From fan art to memes to lore posts on the IRL horses to a certain series of YouTube shorts. Did you know that in Umamusume? And I am happy to report that I, like many others, have now fallen down the Hans rabbit hole. Thanks, Gold Chip. I've been playing the game for about a month now, and I've come to grow fond of the game's colorful and often silly cast of characters. But even before I made the decision to start playing, I heard a lot of things about the characters themselves. More specifically, their designs and how their racewear reflected the stories of their real-life counterparts. As such, this particular video in a series that I'm affectionately calling Chamomile Yaps About Character Designs is going to be about my first impressions of the individual designs of the playable characters and their racing outfits. But I'll also be talking about some of the little things that I enjoy and some things that I have several questions on. For the sake of not keeping things too long, I won't get to all of the characters, and my primary focus for this video will be on the racewear, but I might do a second video where I talk about the character skins and other alternative outfits. And again, I am pretty new to Umamusume, so don't bully me, please. Anyhow, if you're new here and you want to see me yap about horses, then make sure to like and subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, then welcome back to the spaghetti layer. Either way, strap your butts in, because here we go! Also, shout out to this guy who predicted this video in the comments section of my Enigma of Sepia video. Okay, now let's go. So, how do I feel about the character designs of the horse game? Yes. Anyway, that is going to do it for this video. Okay, now. In all seriousness, there are so many things that I love about the Umamusume designs, from the symbolism to the general vibes to the horse ears. The global launch cast is of course small compared to the amount of playable characters in the Japanese server, and the JP server has a very large roster, but there is still a lot to talk about. In the month that I've been playing the game, I've been getting a sort of upbeat and lighthearted, and again, often comedic vibe in terms of the atmosphere. And I think that translates well to the vibrancy of most of the designs. There are some exceptions, of course, like Seiyun Sky's pastel color scheme, along with the mostly monochrome color palettes of both Manhattan Cafe and Kurenchan, but they don't seem out of place in the world of Umamusume at all. Moving on to the symbolism, there is certainly no shortage of it when it comes to the overall designs, and especially the race outfits. With a few exceptions, many of the Uma's hair and tail colors match that of their real-life counterparts, and they also have ear accessories that indicate whether their namesake is a stallion or a mare. Another notable aspect of the symbolism, and probably my personal favorite aspect, is that the color schemes of the Uma's racewear is a reflection of their namesake's jockey silks. For example, the real Special Week's jockey silks were purple and white, and this is reflected in the color scheme of his Umamusume counterpart. The jockey silks of the real Tokai Teo were white with pink sleeves and a blue chevron stripe across the chest. The chevron stripe is translated in the form of the diagonal stripe across Teo's jacket and also in the pattern on her skirt, while the pink shows up in her cravat. The jockey silks of the real Gold Chip had red bands around the arms, and this shows up in the form of his Umamusume counterpart's armbands. The red also shows up in her dress, while the white sleeves show up in her gloves, boots, and stockings. The Mejidos all had the same white and green jockey silks, and this can also be seen on the race outfits of their counterparts. From Mejido McQueen's undershirt, bow, and socks, to the sleeves on Mejido Ryan's coat, to pretty much Mejido Dober's entire outfit. The real Maruzansky had red and yellow silks, which also happens to lend itself to the bright red sports car imagery that the designer of his counterpart intended. Something that notably is also furthered by the sports car-esque emblems on Umamusume Maruzansky's collar and thigh garters. While the yellow diamonds on the real Oguri Cap's silks don't exactly show up on his counterpart's racewear, they do appear on the hair accessory that Oguri wears. But this does bring me to the one exception to the rule. The real Haru Urara never had any fixed jockey silks, so the color palette for her Umamusume counterpart was based on a pink and white face mask that she wore on the track that also takes the form of her counterpart's ear covers and headband. She also wore matching leg bands that take the form of her counterpart's socks. Even the band-aids that Urara has on her legs have significance to them, as they signify her determination and willingness to never give up. I also want to take note of how practical her race outfit is. It looks very well suited for the racetrack, and you can tell that she is ready to keep running, even if she doesn't win. A design truly fit for the shining star of losers everywhere. RIP legend. Let's now move on to the smaller parts of the overall picture that represent, I guess you could say, a symbolism goldmine when it comes to Umamusume's design philosophy. These are the bits and bobs that tell the story of an Umamusume's real-life counterpart, and these can symbolize anything from the significance of their names to their racing records to actual items that they wore on the track. But let's look at racing records first. The clover buckles on Spez vest symbolize her namesake's 4 Grade 1 race wins, which is kind of a big deal in horse racing. But as with a 4-leaf clover, you would have to look at the individual leaves to see the reference. Something I also want to note is that she also has clover pins on the collar of her jacket, so I wonder if that's also a reference to the racing record of the real Special Week. The real Symboli Rudolph had a whopping 7 G1 wins, and this is reflected on the medals pinned to Rudolph's coat. Speaking of Rudolph, I also want to mention that the real Tokai Teo was the son of the real Symboli Rudolph, and the two of them are connected through their cravats along with the matching epaulets and capes. In fact, if you've played her career mode, you'll know that Teo purposely models her race outfit after Rudolph's. Gulshi's dress has 6 buttons on the front, a reference to her namesake's 6 G1 wins. A noteworthy accomplishment for any racehorse, but this especially goes for one whose performance on the track was about as unpredictable as his temperament. Gulshi also has an anchor-like ornament pinned to the belt on her right thigh, which according to the wiki is a reference to her name. Also, can we talk about how her outfit being very refined and put together is such a huge contrast to her cheeky and unhinged personality? I love that for her. In regards to names/nicknames, Mihono Bourbon's outfit is a reference to a nickname that her namesake had, the Cyborg. Granted, the in-universe reason as to why her race outfit looks like that is a bit different, but regardless, I think it conveys the whole cyborg theme well. Rice Shower has a dagger clip to her belt, a nod to the Black Assassin epithet that her namesake had. And I feel like her mainly dark color scheme adds to that vibe as well. True to her name, Maya no Top Gun is a walking, talking Top Gun reference, from the aviator jacket to the dog tags to just the general vibe of her design. The lore also takes it a step further, as her father is a pilot. Machikane Fukukitaru has a number of luck and fortune related motifs on her outfit, from the Emma on her belt, which also represent her namesake's wins in the Kobe Shimbunai and the Kyoto Shimbunai, to her lucky cat-shaped backpack to the 4-leaf clover and daruma that she wears on her ears. An accurate reflection of the fact that Fukukitaru translates to good fortune has come. These next two don't have to do with names specifically, but I may as well point them out now before I forget. Grass Wonder has a set of black wraps around her right ankle. According to the wiki, it's a reference to the fact that the real Grass Wonder retired after fracturing his leg. But I also read on Wikipedia that he retired after losing multiple races in his last racing season and missed most of his second racing season due to injury. So I'm not sure what's going on here, but I think it's a neat reference regardless. One more thing I want to point out is the green and yellow ball that Silent Suzuka wears as a hair accessory, something that was modeled after an ornament that her namesake also wore on the track. I briefly mentioned that most of the Uma's hair and tail colors were modeled after the markings and coloring of their namesakes, take for example the little dot in Grass's hair, but it doesn't stop at their hair colors, as their race outfits also have these kinds of references, such as the mismatched shoes on Grass, Spe, and Suzuka. Outside of the symbolism in the designs though, there are also many little things that I enjoy. I've already mentioned both Manhattan Cafe and Kuren-chan, and if you know me well, you'll know that I am very fond of monochromatic color schemes. And I love the red stockings and accents on Kuren's race outfit. And since we're on that topic, Kita-san Black's color palette and overall design is one that I also really enjoy. The red, black, and gold are all well balanced in my opinion, and I also feel like her outfit suits her lively personality. True to her being an idol and being focused on always looking cute while winning, Smart Falcon does look like an idol. Similarly, Rudolph's racewear is very befitting of a student council president. And TM Opera O's race outfit is very fitting for someone whose namesake was known as the Conqueror of the Century's End and was also, at one point, the highest earning racehorse of all time, even though her armor and anklet thingies look like they would be an absolute pain to run in. What were you thinking, Ope? As befitting of her crown name, Sakura Bakshino has a lot of cherry blossom/petal motifs in her outfit. The ends of her cape and coat are very reminiscent of flower petals, and the same goes for her boot buckles. She even has cherry blossoms in her eyes, something that Urara also has. McQueen's jacket gives her a distinct silhouette. Well, then again, that's something that all of the Umas have already, and I like how her design is this sort of mix between refined and modernistic. Also, the boots. I would wear McQueen's boots. However, there are also some things I'm not so sure about, I guess you could say. While some of the racing outfits are more than suited for the track, like those of Winning Ticket and Urara just to name a few, I'm worried about the breathability and practicality of some of the other outfits. I did see one person say that the material of the Uma's racewear is optimized for racing, but as I'm new to the franchise, I'm still not sure how much truth there is to this statement. But I do know that the Umas are a normalized part of society in the world of Umamusume, so I'm sure there's some sort of in-universe workaround to this issue. But again, a lot of my gripes are based on first impressions, just as much as the things that I love about the designs. While I love the design of Agnes Tachyon's lab coat, I'm not sure her racewear would be so practical on the track, and I don't think her coat would be very practical when doing experiments either. Like, girl, get those sleeves tailored before you cause a lab accident. The same goes for Sato no Diamond's sleeves. She isn't playable in the global server yet, but I have seen her race outfit. While I also love her design, I can only imagine how much of a nuisance those long sleeves would be while running. Narita Taishin's overall look is a good reflection of her rebellious and coarse personality, but to me the color scheme kinda clashes. The real Narita Taishin's jockey silks were pink and purple according to the wiki, so maybe the coat around her waist or maybe her shirt could have been purple instead, just to offset all the colors going on. Granted, the racewear doesn't have to follow the jockey silks to a T, but I wish there was something to make Taishin's outfit a bit more cohesive. No, we're not talking about the singular pant leg. And then there's the matter of Biwa Hayahide's skirt. Why does it have holes? I also wish Hayahide's shoes match the rest of her race outfit, since the gray seems to clash with a black and pink color palette. Personally, I think pink shoes would have looked really cool, or maybe red shoes to match her glasses. I don't know, that's just me. So even though the global server has only been up for a couple of months and the global roster is small compared to the Japanese server, Umamusume is already making some good first impressions when it comes to character designs. There is one more thing I want to talk about for this video, but before we do that, it's time for a special commercial break. You there. Yes, you. Are you an artist who feels like they aren't improving or are otherwise struggling with the fundamentals? Don't worry, improving your drawing game is just one click away with Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives with thousands of classes on topics that include illustration, design, photography, video, and more. These classes are taught by folks who represent the top of their creative disciplines, so you can level up in your creative journey with confidence. You'll also get curated sequences of classes to guide you towards your goals, an active community of fellow creators to give you feedback, and certificates and badges to help you celebrate your accomplishments. If you want to get inspired, learn new skills, and make new creative discoveries, look no further than Skillshare. But what kinds of classes can you expect to find on the platform? Well, as it so happens, I used to struggle a lot with getting my proportions, fundamentals, and just about everything else right. And even though I've improved greatly in the last few years, I still tend to have the same problems. And that brings me to today's class spotlight. Learn to Draw Daily Practices to Improve Your Drawing Skills by artist and art educator Gabrielle Bricky. In this class, you'll learn many useful tips that you can apply in your art journey, including how to break structures down into shapes, drawing forms, shading, and even drawing upside down. Wow! While I'm only a few sections in as of writing this script, I'm excited to continue with the rest of the class, and I'm hopeful that I can learn a few things and apply it to my own artwork so that I can finally feel like I'm making meaningful improvements in my art. But wait, there's more! If you join Skillshare using this coupon code, you'll get your first month free. Yes, you heard that right. The first month is free! You can also get this discount by clicking on the link in the description of this video. So don't miss this special opportunity to level up your skills. At a discount! Thank you to the folks at Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And speaking of the video, let's get right back into it. Now, let's turn to some of the non-global Umas that I'm looking forward to the most or otherwise just want to mention. Of course, these are just some of the Umas that I have my eyes on, as again, the JP server has a very large roster, and to talk about all of them would take 3 hours minimum. But yeah, let's start with one of my most anticipated Hanses, Orfèvre. Is her race outfit suited for the track? Probably not. Do I still think it's perfectly suited for a boastful, self-proclaimed king of the racecourse? Yes. While the real Orfèvre didn't have white in his jockey silks, I still think the white coat his Umamusume counterpart wears is a wonderful addition to the ensemble that balances everything out. And then there's the crown-looking thingy, the three-toned hair, the ear accessory, and the gilded ear cover. Chef's kiss. Next is Wonder Acute, the painter Hans. I love this design so much. The pastel colors, the big skirt and the fluffy hair giving her a recognizable silhouette, the patterns on her gloves and dress, the little pom-poms, and then there's also the red and blue striped patterns on her skirt and ear cover referencing the face mask that her namesake wore, along with the bright teal eyes for an element of contrast. Again, this maybe isn't the best fit for the track, but it's still very fitting for an Uma who apparently reminds people of their grandmas. Kurin Bukedo's outfit and overall design is gorgeous, but there are a lot of colors vying for attention on her ear cover and the underside of her skirt. Bouquet's namesake had the same silks as the real Kurin-chan. so maybe the flowers could have been different shades of red to tie everything together and make the outfit more cohesive. Also, where are the socks? Wouldn't that be uncomfortable to run in? Then we have Sato no Crown. Personally, I think Crown's outfit is the perfect combination of practical and elegant. It looks like it'd be comfortable to run in, and also a good choice if you want a bit of showmanship as well. And I think the gold trim complements the green and black in her outfit. Gentil Donna. This Uma kinda scares me, but I'm not complaining. Her name translates to noble lady in Italian, and it really shows in her design. Her ruffled outer skirt, the openings of her sleeves, the bows and the braid at the back of her head all give her her own recognizable silhouette. And I also love the quilted ear accessory and the flowers on the sides of her dress. Her shoes do look like they'd be a pain to run in, but hey. These are distinguished shoes for a distinguished lady, and on that front, I can't complain. Much kane Tannhäuser. The haunts raised to meme status. Her design is very reminiscent of the classic tavern maid outfit, her color scheme feels very cohesive, and I just think there's a lot to love about her design, from the large bow to the lopsided hat to the frilled socks. I wasn't sure how to feel about the open shoulders on Mach-tan's shirt at first, but now I imagine this would be great for breathability. Wind Variation seems to have a lot of ballet-related motifs, and as someone who did ballet for 8 years as a kid, I thought it was really cool to see. Also, I love her color scheme. Complementary colors are another weakness of mine. And speaking of which, it's not just Shion's design that uses this kind of contrast, as this is also the case with Love's Only You. The red and green, the heart motifs, the fact that the strands of her hair also make hearts, the different colored ears. Global Wen! Stay Gold. Ah, the manure connoisseur. If you know, you know. I've heard that during his career, the real Stay Gold performed better outside of Japan, which is likely what's reflected in Stego's fondness for traveling along with the goggles. I've also seen someone mention that the tattered coat is because the real Stay Gold ran in 50 races, which I believe is above the average for a racehorse, so I feel like that tracks. Aside from that, there's a very retro vibe to Stego's design that I enjoy, and she looks like someone who makes reckless travel plans. Jungle Pocket's outfit seems like it would also be great to run in, and I also like how the leopard print skirt cape thing offsets the solid print throughout the rest of Poke's race outfit and the mostly form-fitting nature of the ensemble. Also, I would wear those hair clips. Of course, whether or not I pull for these characters will depend on their base stats, but in the case of characters like Orpheus, Stego, and Gentil Donna, you know I'ma be pulling regardless. But since we're here... No, we are not talking about Still in Love. While I really like Still's design, I have already seen videos of her, and she already scares me. I am dreading the day this Uma comes to the global server and, Chamomile clone number 53, this better be important, I'm recording a video. Wait. There's a girl with horse ears 50 kilometers away from the office and rapidly closing in. Can you give me a description of her? Oh. Oh no. It's happening. Run. Everyone run. Run for your lives! Okay, I think I'm safe now. Where was I? Oh, yeah. I should probably wrap this thing up. In short, there is already a lot to love about the character designs in Umamusume. And as I said, I've been enjoying the game so far, and I want to expand my horizons and start watching the anime soon. That is, after I get through some of the other shows on my backlog. Maybe if I start with Season 3, I'll be fine, right? Right. I'm interested to see what's in store for the global server, and I'm very much looking forward to being able to pull for my most anticipated Umas. Again, while this video did primarily focus on the racewear, I might make a video in the future where I talk about the Uma's other outfits. I am considering making a series where I rank individual character designs for different games, shows, and whatnot, so maybe I might save further horse talk for those kinds of videos instead. But regardless, as we wait for more Umas to come to global, we must always remember to keep calm and mambo. Anyway, that is going to do it for this video. If you like this video and want to see more from me, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more art-related videos and shenanigans. If you want to support me further, make sure to check out my webcomic as well as my Ko-fi and my Etsy shop, which are all in the description. And lastly, if you made it this far, leave a horse emoji in the comment section below. And remember to keep things civil in the comments, or I will put a whoopee cushion in your chair when you least expect it. And yeah, that's about everything. Thanks for watching. Oh, also, you may have noticed that, some months after I announced them, memberships are now live. And I'm also on Patreon now. If you want access to shiny exclusive emojis, never-before-seen artwork, newsletters, exclusive polls, and more, don't hesitate to join. Also, all YouTube membership and Patreon rewards for the month of September will be available for everyone, so check them out if you're interested. Okay, now that's everything. See you there. Ew.